Thank you for tuning in to the Fridays from the Farm from the Fox and Crow Farm in New Hampshire, our podcast series for the month of March, Women in Farming. I'm so excited to bring this amazing topic to the forefront of our March podcast series. I have the privilege of knowing so many women in the farming industry. These are not your typical women, and they're not your typical farmers either. These are bust your ass, full-time working wives, moms, career executives, and dedicated land stewards and animal lovers. We dig in deep about their lifestyle, marriage and relationships, family life, their careers beyond the farm, and their farm and farm business. How did they start? Where do they want to go? And how will they get there? We will share stories of success and failure and talk about the emotional impact farming has had on their bodies, mind, and soul. Join us for this motivating and inspiring journey with some of the toughest women in New Hampshire from our Fridays from the Farm March series, Women in Farming from New Hampshire. All right, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for joining the Fridays from the Farm podcast with the Fox and Crow Farm out of Barnstead, New Hampshire. We have a guest today, Amy Matarozzo with the LorrenJoyce Farm in Barnstead, New Hampshire. They raise dairy, beef, they sell eggs, cheese. We're definitely interested in learning a little bit more about Amy, her experience as a farmer, and her experience as being a farmer as a woman that's married with children. We had a lot of people that contacted us and said they want to hear more about inspiring stories of women in farming. So, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time and joining us on this podcast today. Tell us a little bit about where you are. You're in Barnstead, New Hampshire, but kind of describe where you are in the state of New Hampshire. What does your farm look like?
Hi, we are north of Concord, kind of in between the central part of the state and the seacoast. I always say, 30 minutes from UNH, and people kind of know where that is. I like where we are. I think it's being centrally located is really nice. You kind of are close to everything in New Hampshire that you need to get to. We're in a very rural area, which is nice. The community is really ag supportive, which is really important to us. When we moved up here, we wanted to be in a community that supported agriculture and welcomed us.
How much land do you guys have?
25 acres.
25 acres. And then how many dairy cows do you keep on 25 acres?
We currently have dairy, we probably have about 25, 30. And then we've got another 20-ish of beef animals. They're replacement steers, calf cow pairs. We have a mixed herd.
Yeah.
We feed a lot of supplemental feed because we don't have enough land base to pasture everything strictly. You need roughly an acre per cow in order to do it correctly. So we rotationally graze as we can, but we'll never be able to just feed pasture. So we work with a dairy nutritionist who is able to do beef and dairy and give us the best scenario possible for our setup, and also being able to pasture graze. And it's a tricky game. You have to do what's best for the animals and the best for the environment. And last year was really hard because we had a drought and the grass didn't grow, and so we were trying not to kill our pastures and also keep the cows fed. And the Mother Nature is not always your best friend.
And I'm sure there's a lot of farmers right now that are short on hay or chafe hay, and the cost for that has gone right through the roof.
Yeah, it's horrible. You can't find dry hay right now, and if you do, it's $1 million a bale.
It's very expensive.
Horrible. Everything's up.
Yeah.
We can't find corn silage. We feed corn silage too as a supplement. for energy, because we don't feed grain to our beef. We just do minerals and pasture, and then the corn silage, and that's really hard to find too. The drought affected that.
Well, we definitely want to talk a lot about the farm, but I think what a lot of people want to hear about is, what was your life before the farm? Talk about your childhood, and were you raised on a farm? What was your life like before LorrenJoyce?
Yep. So I grew up on dairy farms. I'm from the Monadnock region of the state. And I grew up at Echo Farm in Hinsdale, New Hampshire. It was actually a woman, two sisters own the farm. So I grew up on a woman-owned farm, dairy farm in Hinsdale, and they make pudding. And they're also Agrimark dairy farmers, so they ship milk, and they have jerseys, shorehorns. They used to milk Guernseys too when I was there. And I grew up showing dairy cows. I grew up on a dairy farm. And then I went to UNH, thought I wanted to become a veterinarian, and I majored in biomedical science with a pre-vet focus. And Brian and I got married, and we ended up buying our farm in Barnstead, and that's where we're at.
So
I always said I would either be happy being a vet or being a dairy farmer. So
yeah,
that's what I'm doing. Vet school, just the closest one was in Boston, and Tufts is one of the hardest programs in the country to get into. And there was just something about having, $350,000 of personal debt that was really hard for me. And being a veterinarian's not like a doctor. You don't make as much money, and especially with livestock. So
yeah.
Not like I'm making money really, but at least
we'll talk
debt.
about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the money thing. That's always a big question.
Yeah.
So when did you and Brian get married? What year was that?
2015.
Yeah.
We met through New Hampshire Young Farmers, which we both were very, very active in doing community service projects and networking. We used to travel around the country doing young farmer events and competitions. We got to meet people from across the country doing different industries of ag, and it was great.
Yeah.
Oh, hopefully when our kids are older, we can get back into it. But right now we have to focus on the kids and the farm.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you got married in 2015, and then when did this farm in Barnstead come about? And tell us about the name. What does it all mean?
We moved here in 2014, and the name of the farm is a tribute to my mom and my uncle. They're both deceased, and they're both important parts of my life that we wanted to, give honor to. And Brian's family had a vegetable operation in Derry, New Hampshire in the 70s and 80s, and we just wanted to have a different name. So that's where our brand name came from. It's kind of confusing, but
well, I think this is a great way to clear that up for a lot of people.
yeah.
So Brian came from an agricultural background. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sort of, yes. His dad's side of the family were vegetable farmers, and they farmed, I think, until the mid 80s or so, and then they sold out. And then his dad went to work for Sunnycrest, which is a fruit and vegetable farm in Londonderry, and they also owned Carter Hill at one point. So his dad's been heavily involved in agriculture his whole life, and then he drove an oil truck and Brian also grew up on a farm in Rochester, Vermont. His family had a camp on the same road that the farm was on, Liberty Hill Farm.
Mm.
So Brian grew up with their boys and learned how to chop corn and, fix equipment and run a dairy farm.
And how did you guys meet?
We met through the Young Farmers program.
Oh, nice.
So, New Hampshire Young Farmers is a subdivision of New Hampshire Farm Bureau. It's 16 through 35 young people that are in ag.
I don't qualify for that anymore. Bummer.
Yeah, we always said it needed to go to like 40 at least.
Yeah.
Because most people don't have their own place or even like finding their way in this world until they, their 30s usually.
Yeah. That is true. So would you say that the two of you, both you and Brian, is your farm your full-time career focus, or do you guys have supplemental income coming in elsewhere?
So for me, it's definitely my primary job, besides taking care of my kids. Brian has an off farm. He's self-employed as a mobile mechanic. He's a heavy duty truck mechanic. So he works on everything from logging equipment to farm tractors to tractor trailers to cranes, anything big. He doesn't work on like, hairy homeowner's car or anything
Yeah.
like that. But he did at one point. So it's not, he's been there, done that.
Well, a common theme that we have identified is there's always got to be some other form of income stream coming in, and so that's a very common theme that we've seen is, there's the
Yeah.
farm, there's the farmer, and then usually there's a supplemental form of income as well. So you found that that's a good balance for you in order to maintain the farm life that you want, but still being able to flourish as a farmer.
It's hard. I mean, we can't pay all our bills with just the farm. The farm pays its bills, but it barely pays, me money. So then we have to do something else to, keep living. And my goal was at one point or another for us to be able to just do our farm, but Brian likes his job. He enjoys it and he wants to build his business too. So we want to find balance and being able to do both and make it work.
Yeah. One of the things that I wanted you to share with people, because I've known you long enough to watch when you had your first child and now your second. And I know that that was a struggle for you. I mean, you were pretty public about some of the pregnancy complications that you had. And I think there's a lot of women out there that, they struggle with this, whether it's the pregnancy, the planning, the family, actually having the kids and finding that balance. How did you do it? And do you want to share with people kind of what your challenges were?
Sure. Yeah. So I have this rare disease called hyperemesis, which is induced. It's a pregnancy induced disease, which I didn't know, before I decided we were going to have a family, that I was going to have this. And with my first, it was like, oh yeah, I'm sick in the beginning, but it didn't really go away. But I was able to take oral medication and still farm, and I was able to work. Actually, I worked off farm until Hayden was born, for a family business. And then after that, I decided I need to stay home and take care of him and work on my business. And our second one was a whole different deal. I had this fantasy in my head that I wasn't going to be sick again and everything was going to be okay. But that was the furthest from the reality. I had a very, very severe case. I had to live with a pick line, and I'm out there in July heat trying to clean chicken coops with a central line in my arm, and it was really scary, but I got through it, and luckily there's modern medicine that can help me so I could still work. It wasn't until like over halfway that I was able to I couldn't work for 16 weeks, and that was a huge hardship on our family
Mm.
to have, you know, me be the primary operator of our business and then me not be able to even go outside anymore was really, really hard.
So who was managing the farm animals?
Brian took care of it. He would do it before he went to work, and then he would work, and then he'd come home and do it again, and just trying to keep myself alive. And Hayden, I was trying to take care of a 18-month-old, 2-year-old. That was really hard.
Yeah.
My family had to help us a lot, and when they say it takes a village, it really does, because you can't have Brian's parents there was a huge savior to us. I mean, we can't really do it without their help, you know.
Yeah.
You need most dairy farms have it's multi-generational, so the parents help their kids with the grandkids and everybody works together. But when you're a first generation farmer and you don't have family close by, it can be really, really hard,
Yeah.
especially when you go through something like what we did with me being sick. And yeah, it was
That
rough.
that must have been about the time you started liquidating some of your chicken your
Yeah,
chicken coop supplies.
actually, so on top of the cows, we used to have 500 chickens, and my father-in-law will tell you he never wants to wash another egg again in his life. It was a 40-hour week job between feeding and the watering and the collecting the eggs and then packaging all, 30 dozen a day. And yeah, we had to scale down, be more realistic, because after I was over or done with the pregnancy, then I needed emergency gallbladder surgery. Then I got a blood clot in my leg. And so it was over like 6 weeks before I could even really do anything. And that's at the time we were like, we got to get the hell out of this chicken business.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
Just another question before we take a quick break. At what point were you like, to hell with farming? I mean,
Yeah,
did you
multiple
ever?
times. Like we're like, why are we doing this? Like, we can't do it. I'm too sick and it's too hard with like one kid alone. But it's my passion and my pride. And I feel like it's really my purpose in life. And Brian is very dedicated to making sure that I can keep going with the farm. And he, he stood by me and did as much as he could to take care of everything. And without him, it would not have been possible. His parents also were here every day taking care of me, and his dad took care of the farm too. And
Mm,
we did all work together because it was really hard.
yeah.
But most people don't go through what I went through. But it's still, even no matter what your situation is, when you have children, it puts a different light on everything.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more, and we're going to focus a little bit on the future of your farm. Okay.
Sounds good.
So thank you guys so much again for joining us at the Fridays from the Farm podcast series. Today we're with Amy with the LorrenJoyce farm out of Barnstead, New Hampshire. I do have their website up in the background, LorrenJoyceFarm.com. We'll get to explore their social media site a little bit more. We're very thankful to have Amy join us this evening to talk a little bit about her life as a woman farmer in Barnstead, New Hampshire on a dairy farm. So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us today. So before we went on our break, we were talking about, your pregnancy and some of the struggles that you were having at that time. And, something that really stands out for me listening is this inspiring story about the strength of your marriage. And, I think a lot of us women, we take a lot of pride in being extremely strong. We're very strong willed. You certainly have a very deep passion for farming. But your husband, and this is Brian in the background. If you guys are looking at the website, those of you on our podcast, you can always go to our YouTube channel to watch the video footage. But the husbands play a really important role in farming, and they really do present a level of a foundation. I always say to my husband, I could never match his strength or stamina, whether it's opening a jar that I can't open or lifting something. Just tonight, for example, it's hauling around a frozen hose to go and fill up a water trough. 100-gallon water trough when it's negative whatever degrees outside. So share with people a little bit more, whatever you're comfortable with about your relationship with your husband. I think there's a lot of wives out here, a lot of people that are just now starting out their relationships or marriage, and they're venturing into this farm business. What is that like from your perspective?
You have to have good communication. When you're farming together, you are together all the time. You work together to make business decisions. It's a team effort. And there definitely is things, like you said, that women can't do. I mean, we try to do what we can, but I don't know how to fix the skid steer. I don't know. There's plenty of equipment things I don't know how to do. I mean, I can get by on some things like, trying to put the bucket on the skid steer or put forks on. But besides that, I couldn't tell you anything else besides how to start it.
Right.
I am a cow person, and I think when you are farming together, you both bring different strengths and to the table, and that's how you make it work. Is one person is better about some things than the other person, and I guess it doesn't matter whether you're in business with a man or another woman. Like, you both have your own strengths, and that's important piece of it.
Yeah. Did you guys just immediately identify, what your strengths and weaknesses were together and build on that? Or did this take a couple of years of marriage and then buying the farm and establishing this? Try to think of another young female like you were when you were getting into your farm and marriage before the kids. And was this a balance that you had to work on, or did it just kind of come together? What was that like?
We were together a couple years before we moved up here, and then we moved up here before we got married, but our business didn't really take off until after we were married. We work really good together. Sometimes we want to kill each other, but I think that's anybody. That, at the end of the day, you have to love your spouse so that you can work through basic problems, and you can also, problem solve. I mean, we're constantly trying to work on what can we do better, and like, what are our strengths that we can improve on, and where are we going, and I think that's anything in life. Like Brian's business, I'm 50-50 with him on that. And like it's mostly his decisions, but we still work together on things with that. And it's definitely different than being two people that are married and go to day jobs at different places, and they don't, they're not involved with each other all day long. But to me, another reason why we farm is because we want that quality of life. We want to be able to raise our kids on the farm. We want to be able to spend, if you farm together, you're spending more time together as a family. We want our kids to grow up and see that mom and dad both work really hard, and we both have work ethic, and we share the duties, and it's very important to us that our kids are involved and get the opportunity to grow up on a farm.
Yeah.
When I have a really bad day, I just tell myself, 2% of the population is farming right now, like actively. And, when our kids are doing it, it's probably going to be 0.5. So
I know. That's actually one of the biggest things that got Jared and I into the agricultural industry was sitting down and realizing how old the farming industry is age-wise, and the fact that there was this massive percentage of them that was at the point of retirement, and this small number of people coming in to replace them. And
it really is. The average age must be like over 60 now.
Yeah.
Because it was 57 at like 10 years ago. So
yeah, I know
and that's the thing, like not everybody, not every farmer has kids that are taking over, and these farms are just, especially in the dairy industry in New Hampshire, it's a real crisis. Like their farms are gone forever and there's nobody taking them over. And we're in a very unique position because in the dairy industry, there's no room for young people. They don't take new farms. When a farm retires, they can sell their quota to another farm that's already contracted, and then the other 50% is lost. So young people like us can't even get into the industry. So direct to consumer is our only choice right now.
Yeah. It's interesting that everybody that has agreed to participate in this series for the month of March are all startup farmers. Not one person that we're going to be talking to for the entire month of March for women in farming has been born into or inherited an existing farm or agricultural establishment. And I think that's an interesting topic in itself. I mean, this really is the future of where it's going. We were just talking about hay shortage in the beginning. So many family fields that have been hayed for generations are now neighborhood developments, and these younger generations that are inheriting or buying this property, they don't really understand the value of what it is. And the longevity of farms is expiring for sure.
Yeah, it's very interesting, like the change of times. It's good that we have new people getting, no matter what their age is, I mean, that are getting involved. And I mean, yeah, Brian and I didn't inherit any farms, but we grew up on farms and we worked for other people. And so Brian worked for Highway View Farm, which is Adam Crete. His family owns that dairy farm in Bosquen right on River Road. So we have the farming experience, but no, we didn't, it's not like we inherited a farm.
Yeah. I think that's important for a lot of people to hear, because our biggest listenership is young entrepreneurs that they want to step away from their 9 to 5 and they want to get into this lifestyle, but it's like, where do you start? How do you get there? And I remember taking a class at UNH with Jared, my husband, and everybody that came to speak at the class were all inherited farmers. I mean, all of them had family members in farming, and they all had these properties, and both Jared and I came from like no background.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting, what other people are taking away from this podcast series. And hopefully you guys are finding some useful information that you can use for your future. But I wanted to ask you a question. This is a question that everybody wants to ask you, and I'm sure you've heard it before. How do you find the time?
Yeah.
Tell me you've been asked that before. You're a mom, you have 2 kids, you're married, you have like all these animals to care for. there must be plenty of people in your social circle and your family that are like, where do you get the energy?
Well, I'm tired, that's for sure. Like you were just saying, if you're not, I think the true definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who's willing to work as hard as and as long as it takes to achieve their goals. Like they don't give up because farming is hard and like there's good and bad days and long days, and you need to be able to, when the going gets tough, you gotta get through it. And sometimes that means you're in the barn till midnight calving a calf out, and then you have a baby crying to wake you up a couple hours later. And but it's all about finding balance, I think. And
Yeah.
sometimes I don't get everything done in the day that I want to get done, and I just put it on tomorrow's list.
Mm.
But I don't have much time for myself. I have a very strict schedule I follow every day so that my day is successful, and that because dairy cows are very schedule oriented. If you change their times, they get all upset. And I feel like my kids are the same way. So every day, doesn't matter what day of the week it is, that we have the same schedule, and it definitely gets monotonous. And sometimes I just want to run away and be like, I'm done with the schedule.
Or I just need a vacation.
Oh yeah, like we haven't been on a family vacation in, I don't know, 4 years or more.
Yeah.
2016, so pushing like 5 years. And
Yeah.
even that was only a weekend. And I had a cow die while I was in Florida for the weekend, and I was devastated because I wasn't there to help take care of it and realize that it was sick. And so after that, we were like, it's just not worth it. And
Mm.
we try to do day trips as a family and um, do things with the kids. And it's hard. You have to find balance. You have to love to work. You have to love what you're doing because there isn't any days off.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of part-time help here and there, but it's not like we could go away for a week and be like, oh, have fun. Like,
Yeah.
no, because there's things that we do physically every day that we haven't trained anybody to do. Like, we built a corn silage bunk last year, so we have to pull corn out of it every day with the skid steer. I mean, we could take enough out for a couple days, but in the summer you can't do that because it heats up and gets hot.
Mm.
You got to move poop, you got to clean barns. There's so much stuff that is just beyond the basic day-to-day chores that, especially with our business, we haul bulk milk, we bottle and distribute milk, there's just, the list goes on and on of things that I don't have hired help for, so I can't just up and leave.
Yeah. Definitely some real challenges.
Yeah, you
Just
just have to be realistic in what you want to do, and you got to always have goals and take it a day by day. Try not to put the cart before the horse, as my husband says.
I see so many people do that.
Yeah.
um just real quick, for about a minute, tell us a little bit about where do you see your business going? What's the future of LorrenJoyce?
Well, the tricky part is that um like I told you earlier in the video, we can't get any bigger for numerous reasons. I don't have a milk market that will support growth. So unless I want to physically bottle more milk and distribute it, then, it can't go much bigger with that than what I can handle. We also need to build a processing facility, which is about $100,000 investment if we want to process our own milk to make yogurt, butter, cheese, stuff like that. So that's a whole nother avenue. And then we've outgrown the barns that we're in. So in order for me to grow my beef business, which is something that we're gonna do. We need to build another barn.
Mm.
So this year we are trying to focus on doing loose ends, and we might build a storage facility for sawdust. But hopefully next year we're gonna build a big beef barn. It's like balancing, trying to find. I feel like every year we find things that we need that we don't have, and it's never ending the amount of capital that you need to invest in the business. So that's my other advice is, you got to have some capital to work with, or you're going to be buried in debt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really important thing. And I wish we had more time that we could talk about that, because that's an important part of farming as well. But we are just about out of time. So if there's anything that you want to share with any of our listeners, I'll give you another minute to share that.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody has more questions, feel free to reach out to me. Um, you can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me an email. I'm not always the best about email, but I'll get back to you when I can. Probably sending me a text or calling me is your best bet. Just if you have some farming goals you want to achieve, I really recommend UNH Extension. They're wonderful. We've taken a lot of their classes over the years. I don't know crap about bookkeeping, but I've taken their courses and I've learned a lot on how to keep farm books and how to use QuickBooks, and there's technology out there to help you. You just got
Mm.
to ask for the help and do the courses, and that's a big resource.
Yeah.
New Hampshire Farm Bureau, that's a good resource too. It's all about networking with New Hampshire agriculture. You got to network with people, and that's really where we've gotten, like, it's been such a big help for us to network with people. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, Amy, I really want to thank you so much for taking the time and talking with us this evening. And for those of you listening to this podcast, you can visit their website, LorrenJoyceFarm.com. Did I get that right? LorrenJoyceFarm.com. I'll include links to their website and their social media so you can access that. If you're watching or streaming via YouTube, you'll be able to see the information live as well. So Amy, thanks again so much for joining us for this podcast series. We hope to have you on the show again, and we can talk about so much more in more detail. So thank you.
thank you for having me.
Yes, you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.